Who is the ball? Hello everybody, welcome to the channel. My name's Chris and thanks for stopping by. We're coming to you from Wrocław, Poland, and we were recently back in the States where we purchased a gigantic old shoe factory. And it was in probate for a number of years, and it's 177,000 square feet. And we just want to make a video to take you along with us, show you the building and show you all of the craziness that's inside. A lot of work to do on the building, and we eventually hope to make it a place to receive our shipping containers with antiques from Europe. So thanks for joining, and enjoy the video. Okay, so here it is in Charleston, Illinois, the old Buster Brown Shoe Company. There were a number of these spread out through the Midwest. The Brown Shoe Company would actually go to small towns and make a deal with the town folk to bring their factory and their employment to the town in exchange for favorable tax considerations. And so there are quite a few of these around. This one is 177,000 square feet of projects to do. And I think, actually I know for a fact that breaking windows out of this building was a town sport for the young people. They'd get competitions together and see who could break the most windows with a limited number of rocks. And so that's something that I've got to take care of. I think just on this side and wrapped around a little bit on the front, there are over 500 of those 12-inch by 18-inch squares that need to be replaced. So it is an incredible amount of work. And I'm considering this to be like a 5-year project. So yeah, so here's the building, and this was like a major employer for the town of Charleston. For basically, the building was built in 1919, and we actually let some people in to check it out when we first purchased it, and everybody said that they can remember their grandparents working here, and everybody knows somebody that worked here, and a lot of people have memories connected with this building. This particular area right here are bathrooms for all 3 floors, and this was a later addition. The building was in probate for about, I think, 5 or 6 years, and we purchased it because the main goal that I have at the moment is becoming an antiques dealer, importing Eastern European antiques, filling containers with them, and shipping them to the United States to resale. And this YouTube channel is kind of dedicated to my journey and that, the lessons that I learned, sharing those lessons and that information, because when I was doing research to learn how to import the antiques, it was really hard to find information about it, useful, consistent information. There were a lot of videos about it, but they didn't really offer any substantial information, some actionable stuff that people could do if they were interested in importing antiques, or actually going themselves to travel and source them and bring them back for resale. So like I said, my interest is importing them and taking them around to national antique shows such as Round Top, Texas, or Brimfield, and doing that several times a year, and kind of as a side hustle. So yeah. So here we are at the front of the building. As we kind of walk around to the other side, you can see that there's actually a lot of scale to this place. I was thinking maybe I could get the local high school to get some of the students to paint murals in those bricked up windows. Murals dedicated to the people that had worked at the factory since the early 1900s. But so far haven't gotten around to it. We recently had a gigantic winter storm here in the Midwest, and so we got a lot of snow on the ground. For about, I think, at least a decade or longer, there was a man who owned the property, and he operated a plumbing supply business right here in this lower level. And when we purchased the building, it was full of stuff. Actually, prior to us purchasing it, they'd had a number of local auctions, auction after auction after auction, and still the third floor was so full of stuff that we could not get through. And I'm going to take you through the factory in this video. We're going to look at the different floors and how much stuff is still in there after tens and probably almost 20-30 yard dumpsters. And even though we've taken all that stuff out, it's still hard to see the difference. It's kind of still a mess in there. I mean, not kind of, it really is still a mess. But all that stuff in there creates kind of a hazard in terms of like having a fire load in the building. So that's kind of our first priority, is getting it cleaned out, getting it back to a place where it's safe and empty, and then we can start to address all of the things like the broken windows, and there's some roof work that needs to be done. Here we are in the back of the building, and for a short time there was kind of an auto repair store right there in that overhead. Over to the right you can see a ramp going up. That's actually a ramp all the way up to the second floor, and there are a couple of pylon areas where a gigantic water tower used to stand. But this ramp over here on the right, a semi can actually back up to an overhead door on the second floor of the building. So we're gonna actually go in now and check out what's inside. And here we are. In this room, I'm going to set up kind of a workstation or a workshop where it can be kind of the headquarters for rehabbing the building. This building is so gigantic that if you leave a hammer on the other side, it's going to take 10 minutes to walk all the way there and pick it up and get back. So just the scale takes a lot of getting used to. And you really have to come at this from a very strategic perspective, because there's so much to do, and it's very easy to waste time. So you got to be very focused, be very strategic about how to do everything, and it took me a while to kind of learn that. There's some more broken windows from the other side. There are a number of piles there on the left. You can see some wood. I'm hoarding materials for fixing the roof and for repairing the windows, and so I've got those kind of stacked up around the building. And the entire building on all three floors is kind of framed up with these 2x10s, like true 2x10 century-old boards, and these gigantic pillars that run both horizontally and vertically, and they're gigantic and heavy, and I think I counted about 200 throughout the building, so those are really cool. Over here is an area where I've kind of segregated some really cool industrial type furniture stuff. And then I actually have another video where I kind of go through that and show all that stuff off as kind of a haul video. And I'll put a link at the end of this video so you can check that out. Also, at the end of this video is something that I actually took home to preserve, and it's pretty cool. So stay tuned to the end, and I'll show you that. Here we've got some more roofing rolls, some torch down roofing. There's currently a metal roof on the top, and it's causing some problems, so we're going to have to install a flat roof up there, at least on a 100-foot section of it. Here I have some Smart Side, which is resin impregnated sheeting that we're going to use to cap a lot of the windows because it's a cheaper solution than actually fixing the glass. We've got some wood here from my uncle's barn that we tore down and salvaged. And as messy as this area looks, it's kind of one of the cleaner areas in the factory. Here we've got some old apothecary furniture that I purchased from a small town nearby that was also from the early 1900s, and that's a project for this spring. These things were actually together when I got them, and they've been a little bit dismantled, and this is a gorgeous piece of furniture. It's 64 drawers right there, and you can't quite get the sense of how awesome it looks in this picture, but once I get that rehab this spring, it's going to be amazing. Now, the building's been rewired multiple times over the century, and every time I think that they did wiring, they just put more stuff up instead of taking the old stuff down. So part of the process right now is removing that and getting it cleaned out. And as you can see, this one is a little bit cleaner here because we've put a lot of effort into removing all of that conduit. And it's not a matter of just pulling that stuff down. It's really hard to get it out, believe it or not. And I can't use an angle grinder because, for obvious reasons, sparks fly, and we don't quite yet have the fire suppression system in yet. So I have to do it the slow, hard, difficult way. So the first three things that I hope to do is to get the fire load out, to seal up the windows, kind of weatherize the building, and fix the roof. So after that, we are hoping to get fire suppression and rewire the building for electric. And once we can get that done, that is a giant milestone for us on this project. We'll kind of take a walk here through where the plumbing and electrical business was, and this is kind of the front door access to the building that faces the street. There's still some retail shelving in here and some early 20th century kind of Art Deco ceiling lights. This had a floating ceiling. I've already removed it and the framework for holding it up, but there's still some kind of hanger wires that need to be removed. We need to get the room completely cleaned out and figure out how to kind of dress it up. Another warehouse type area. There are all kinds of vintage. You can see yellow and key lime brown toilets. 1970s style bathroom fixtures everywhere in the factory. They're kind of cool. I found that the pink ones were the most interesting. When I listed them for sale on Facebook Marketplace, everybody was contacting me about pink stuff. So I've segregated those and kind of focusing on those. They can help pay for dumpsters to get stuff out of the building. And there are several of these cast iron bathtubs in the crate. Here's a fire door in a barn pulley style system. That's tin plated door with awesome hardware. And we're going to walk over here. There's actually a much bigger one. I don't know if you can actually tell from the wide angle lens on my GoPro, but that thing is giant. That open area a pickup truck can run through, so it's kind of hard to get a sense of the scale. These were old fire doors, and they actually work. They very smoothly open and close, and so they're pretty special. Some pretty amazing hardware. Here's an area that looks like it's been used to collect trash. There's a fork truck, an old fork truck here that actually works. Somebody had broken the key off in it, and we got that out and cleaned the carburetor up a little bit, and it actually starts. Not sure what's going to happen with that. It might go to the recycling yard, but it does actually work. So those porcelain enamel lights there, those were actually spread out through the entire building. There were, I would say, close to 100 of them in the building, and I've set them aside. Over here is a group of them, one of my little caches, and a few of them were cleaned up, but a lot of them are still really dirty. And what I hope to do is line them up in pairs and line the bays, those big open areas from the beginning of the video, all the way down, so it has that kind of cool industrial lighting thing going on. This is a halophane light, and I had heard that during the auctions, when they were selling the majority of the stuff in the building that they thought was valuable, there was so much stuff that just because of the volume, it wasn't bringing a whole lot of money, and somebody had purchased an entire wagon load of those halophane lights for like $5 or $10. That's word of mouth, but I kind of believe it, and it's pretty awesome because for somebody, because those things are, can be in the hundreds of dollars for a single lampshade. So those are pretty cool. If you see those around, you keep an eye out for them because they do hold a lot of value. Here's like I said, here's where I want to line those lampshades all the way down, hang them, maybe mount some to those vertical posts over to the right as well on gooseneck type mounts. And the amount of dust in the building is just out of control. I need to figure out a strategy for getting that under control, because I'll clean something up, some stuff that I have from the building, and I'll come back the next day or two, and it just has a thin layer of dust all over it. So I have to figure out something about that. Hopefully after I shop vac the thing out after getting the fire load out, then we'll get that under control. Here you can see that we're on the second floor, and at this point it's beginning to empty out. When we first came here, it was very difficult to even walk through the building, and it's even more intense on the third floor, but we had to start somewhere. So we're getting the stuff out, and it's pretty crazy because the stuff in here is so random. The previous owner was a big fan of auctions, and he would buy lots of stuff and bring it here for storage, and he did it, pretty much over a lifetime. So the randomness is over the top of the stuff that you can find in here. Some of it's very valuable stuff, but it's the kind of stuff that it would be really hard to find somebody that was actually looking for it. And I'll give you an example of that here in a minute. People have been through this, pilfered a lot of these boxes, everything's strewn around, and this is just kind of one of the areas that we haven't really gotten to. This would make a really amazing industrial apartment. I don't think it's zoned for that, but how cool would this place be cleaned up and made into an apartment like one from the movies. Here's an example. It's a 12-volt air horn. These would go into a boat or into a truck or something, and they would power an air horn, and there's just cases of them all around the place. That's the kind of thing that's... Here's a giant cache of rubber refrigeration hosing. I think it's for like refrigerators and stuff. Irrigation line. And I actually took about 200 school desks to the scrapyard for recycling. And there are still probably over 100 in the building. And here's an old cafeteria, school cafeteria table. This actually folds out and you get 12 seats from it. I don't know if you remember those from your days in grade school, but it would be pretty cool, I think, if I put a new tabletop on it. And here's an old grinder. Don't know if it was original to the factory or not. It's I don't know if you can see or get a sense for the scale of it. It has a giant cast iron stand on it, and it's actually 110 volts, which is surprising. I'm gonna try to hook that up and see if it works. Over here, this is one example of a number of places in the building that are just so... Oh, we had that winter storm, and the windows have let all that snow in, so it just shows how dire the situation is with getting those actually sealed up. This room is so full of stuff that I can't really get into it, and I don't know actually what's in the room. So that's another project for this year, is to get this cleaned out, and who knows, maybe I'll find something really cool in there. More conduit. A lot of this was actually, and a lot of it still has a lot of heavy gauge copper wire in it, so I'll be pulling that down and getting that to the recycling company, and that will also help to fund some of the dumpsters. These are rolls of old wallpaper for motels, so it's like really heavy duty wallpaper with like mesh lining in it. And here are one of those things that I mentioned before that are super expensive. I saw these are high voltage insulators for high wires, and if you look on eBay, they're like hundreds and hundreds of dollars. The problem is that those listings have been there for a couple years and nobody's purchased them, so I don't know if that means finding buyers is such a hard thing, or if those prices are just dream prices. But these will probably end up being lamp bases. Yeah. So it is a wreck. It's a mess. But as you can see, there are certain patches where it's much more empty than other areas. And that's because we really have been removing a lot from the building, getting it out, trying to get the place where we can move around and actually do work on the important stuff, the structural stuff. Here's a charging station for electric forklifts, and there was a sign on it that had all of its data and said that it works. So who knows if that's still true or not. This is all hardwood flooring throughout the entire building. I'm going to head on up to the 3rd floor now. See a large plastic drip catch because the ceiling is leaking, the roof is leaking, the metal roof that they have on is leaking. And believe it or not, when you look at this and see how full it is, it was much more full when we got the building. So it's starting to get to a place at the moment where you can actually walk through. You can fill dumpster after dumpster after dumpster and then not really see a whole lot of progress. It still kind of looks the same as it did before. So a couple of fireplaces here, and a pretty amazing old radiator there on the wall. Those are kind of spread out throughout the building. They have a cool look and patina to them. Retail fixtures. A lot of this stuff, like this old stove here on the left, and there's another one there. There's a giant elevator that actually got this stuff up to the 3rd floor. However, it needs a new solenoid, so that's a lower on the priority list because at the moment we can't actually use the stairs. all kinds of industrial carts throughout the factory. I sold a few, but then quickly decided that that wasn't a great strategy because these carts are so helpful in moving all the heavy stuff around. Because this was a heating and electrical business, or there was one here in the building, we've taken lots of it to the scrapyard already, but the place is full of these HVAC fixtures and components, and what we found is that they are kind of the old style and nobody's really using them anymore, so they don't have a lot of value. Some old radios, the bird poop comes free with those. There's a number of different kinds of wildlife living in the building. We have some possums, some raccoons. There's a fox that lives in the back 3 acres. The property came with 3 acres. There's a big, fat, healthy fox that looks amazing. And there's actually an owl in the building. So we also have some groundhogs that dig holes all over the place out back as well. Some more school desks, chairs. There was a lot of heavy industrial tools like metal brakes and insulation blowers and motorized rotor-rooters and a number of things like that that we were able to sell also to help to pay for dumpsters. And I'm really proud of this area. Believe it or not, it looks like a nuclear bomb went off. But I'm really proud of it because it was so full in the beginning you could barely squeeze through to get back here. And just little bit by little bit over time, like I said, I think this is a 5-year project, and we are slowly getting it cleared out. There's another insulation blower right there, the red one with S100 on it. Here are pallets and pallets and pallets of sharps containers from a doctor's office or a hospital. The randomness of the stuff in here is just so crazy. They're all new in box. Maybe I can find somebody who sells on Amazon. They can take them for me. These toilets don't look great, but they're actually new. Not sure still what's kind of over there to the left. Here we got some more of those vintage sinks, still new in the box. They come in those kind of 70s colors. There's like a lemon yellow, and there's some key lime green, and some avocado green, and all kinds of colors that you really don't see anymore in bathrooms. But yeah, they're pretty cool. So here's the thing I mentioned earlier that I actually brought home. On the doors, the building was built in 1919, and they had these men's and women's bathroom signs. And I don't know if they all were completely original. I suspect that the majority of them were to the building, because you could see that some of the doors have been painted. And when I took the signs off, it was down to the bare wood. So I don't know why they would put the sign on first and paint after, but these actually have quite a bit of value. There are a bunch on eBay that are like reproductions or, you know, later bathroom door signs. But these are the real old ones, and they are, you know, authentic and original, and they hold a surprising amount of value. I'm sure that condition does play a big role in what you can ask for them, but I do really like them, and I wanted to get them home and kind of cleaned up, and that's as much as I dared to clean them. I didn't want to be destructive to the signs. Whoever buys them can do what they want with them. But we actually peeled some paneling back, and this was mounted to the wall behind the paneling, just been paneled over. If you can recognize that font and what decade that would come from, let me know. I'd be interested to know about that. Here's a porcelain enamel one, which is pretty cool. That probably was a replacement for one of the earlier ones. Don't know what decade that would have been from. And here were some other ones that we have: a men's and a women's, ladies one. And these are just kind of tin ones that were on the exterior door. So you would go in to one room, and then there are two bathrooms inside, and they would have those other smaller ones on those doors. And here is, I suspect that this was made for displaying those signs because it's brazed, so it's an old way of kind of joining those metal components. And it's brazed with brass, so I think the sign would have kind of hung in the middle because we found it in the bathroom. So this was a sign that was on the front door, and I wanted to take it off because it was starting to come off anyway, and I didn't want somebody to pull it off, so I brought that home. So it's kind of cool. And we did find a number of other signs around the building, so it's been pretty overwhelming, pretty cool, but we have a lot on our plate, and I think that just about wraps it up. So thank you for joining me, and stay tuned for more videos to come.